16.5% of all students in higher education, with the majority of institutions enrolling and hiring fewer amounts of Latinx. And again, this is what she was getting at, right? Dr. Garcia was mentioning today, like the importance of having more people and more students enrolled in graduate school, the importance of getting people to be educated, and especially with Latinx, right? That they identify as Latinx, Chicano, Chicana, Hispanic, you name it, whatever it is that you identify as. But in terms of that, right? I want to talk about, again, focusing on the LGBTQ lens. 56% do not identify as exclusively heterosexual. And I would argue that that number is still flawed, because how we collect data, for example, here we have CCC apply, right? So in that, we're still not able to disaggregate data based on LGBT identity, right? We kind of, sort of, San Diego State has been kind of like a pioneer in doing that when you enroll, and they give various classifications, everything from his, what's it called, bisexual, gay, transsexual, and I'll go back into all of that, transgender, all these different terms that people might associate with. But we definitely need to do a lot of work at the community college level. I argue that this is essential for knowing, again, how these intersecting of identities really do to serve our student population, if not our most vulnerable student population. 1.52 million Latinx students enrolled at community colleges. Yeah, so we have a lot of our Latinx students that are currently enrolled at two-year colleges and at HSIs. Now, according to Dr. Gina Garcia's presentation today, this is a little bit old. She had like newer stats. Either way, in California, we have 163 HSIs. I want you to focus on the FTE enrollment at HSIs. We have over 1 million, right? Undergraduate students at Hispanic, and at the two-year level, we have 215 HSIs. And we have even more emerging HSIs. So what does that say about our work, about centering these identities, and the complexity that it comes with these identities and the intersection of identities come and the role that they have in serving our students beyond enrollment. So I'm going to give you kind of a little bit of overview about what we do here at Title III and at Title V with our HSI grants. So we have two grants. One, the Proyecto Éxito grant, Title V, and then the Title III, which is a STEM grant. We have everything from a STEM counseling, STEM core, which tracks all of the students in specific math, science courses to complete the degrees in time. The STEM Community Scholarship Program was a $75,000 program that we applied for here through our foundation. And I think we gave like $5,000 to 13 students to travel to all of these, everything from biocom, solar turbines, and all of these networking capacities to send 13 students. And we paid for everything that they did. And they had the best time with that. And they'll explain it at the student panel later today. Has everybody been to the STEM Center? Yes? Can you show me this? Yeah. For those that haven't traveled to the STEM Center or haven't stopped by, it's a great resource for our students. It's been like the hub. Like, it's so packed that we have max capacity at this point, and we're trying to see how we're going to maximize or figure out a different space to get more students involved in there. We have the STEM Peer Mentoring Program, which is led with faculty. And again, going back to the importance of faculty and staff working together. The STEM Peer Mentoring Program selects one student, and they work with students within that class, everything from physics, math, biology. I don't remember which other part is at the top of my mind, but so anyways, they work directly with the students. They mentor them beyond tutoring. So they just don't go over there to resolve student problems or issues, right? They actually connect with them, talk to them about the frustrations that they have, but they have actually one-on-one time with them. And it's faculty-led too. So if any challenge arises with the student that is mentoring, they have the connection with faculty that supports them to deal with like these challenges. And then the Innovation Research Lab is going to happen hopefully soon. We're trying to open and innovate that, be just a research space for our students. Because we don't have the capacity like the UCs, right? We don't have that research one designation, but we're trying to figure out how we can provide resources for our students. Title V current projects, we have the athletics program, the English language acquisition redesign, professional learning. How many people have been to the loft? Nice, spiffy space. And a lot of professional development learning occurs for faculty and staff, and including our NANCES, which is our part-time employees. The Cruise and Peer Navigator programs, we have Mr. Agustin Rivera over there, leading the Peer Navigator programs. The Avanza Student Engagement Center on student services on the second floor. Again, Mr. Agustin Rivera over here. And the classroom tutoring programs with the Campus Conexiones, how we're partnering with them. And Ms. Simone over there that just stepped in, yes, come through, because she's the tutoring coordinator at our campus, that's right. And how we work in connection with them, not just by providing funds for them, but also how it is that we're serving with the focus of Latinx students, right? And that's, if not the most important, cross-bridge collaboration. So again, and this is just the beginning of what we're doing, right? And again, what that institutionalization piece will look like for both of our grants. And we have our Vice President of Instruction here, who is the lead for both of our grants here at Mesa. All right, I'm not gonna go into too much into Dr. Garcia's work, but she talks about a lot about the ways that we can decolonize HSIs, right? About giving voice to the native land and going back to like how racism impacts the work that we do. I'm gonna focus specifically and exclusively on governance, on justice and accountability, and what's it called, the membership. And I'm gonna talk a little bit why that's important, and my role in particular as a classified professional at this institution. So I'm gonna take away the faculty lens, and I'm gonna put the staff at the forefront. So, bear with me. But before we go to do that, I also wanted to talk about the theory. So community cultural wealth talks about like from critical race theory, and Yoso's work with critical race theory, and Bourdieu's cultural capital, and what capital means, right? Like, so for example, our students are equipped. Our students and we as professionals have a lot of value and have a lot of capital. And I don't think that sometimes we recognize that. Like how it is that we navigate these spaces more so, and how we navigate, how that brings us knowledge, how that brings us power. What we've had to do to get the resources that we've had to do in order to advance in education, right? Aspirational capital. That really ties in the work of like saying, well, Latinos don't care. Latino parents don't care, right? That they don't care about us getting an education. No. We're here, we want to get an education. It just means that we just don't know how to do it. There's a lot of times there's a language barrier. We don't know who to go to. We don't know about the resources, or we don't understand the educational culture that exists in the United States. The linguistic capital, that was huge. I think people don't really pay attention to that. Like the fact that we can say we're bilingual, and those that aren't bilingual, what does that mean? The power that it has to be multilingual, right? What that means, what does it mean to be bilingual? What does it mean to come with a set of knowledge? Instead of it looking at it from a deficit lens, bring in what that has done to our brains, what that does to our processing, how we interpret this information, and how we're readily able to give it back. The familial capital, we have very, very, very strong family ties. And I think people also underestimate the power of that. Letty always says, familia. But I will tell you that in graduate school, that's exactly how I roll. Like, I need that family tie. I work like that with everybody that I work with. I feel like at Mesa, we've established that family role, and I like the way that Letty presents that word because it's true. If we don't consider each other like family members, then that's exactly like we see the bad, the good, and the ugly, and we say, yes, this is how we work, this is how we build, and we cross bridges with each other, right? With respect and honoring those that have come before us, right? To do this work, and I think it's very important to do that because as we validate our work here, we validate those that come before us, right? That have allowed us to do this work and expand it. And then social capital, right? Look at, we're all in this space, right? Like we're connecting with each other. Look at all the resources on this, like just alone in this room, right? You have the VPI, we have administrators, we have supervisors, we have student leaders, right? What does that mean for our campus, right? It means that all of you have a role and play an important role in also helping the students bridge those areas in order to accrue social capital beyond what is recognized as capital in the United States. Yep. So this is the Latinx definitions. So if you want to do this. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background between Latinx. I will tell you that that's, if not the most difficult thing I've had to work with, defining Latinx for me. In terms of challenges that we have here at Mesa College, so hopefully you'll bear with me about what I'm about to say. So understanding of intersectionality. I don't think there's any wrong or right in terms of the definitions, right? If you identify as Chicano, if you identify as Chicana, if you identify as Chicanx, if you identify as Latinx, if you identify as Mexican American, if you identify as whatever you choose to identify, think about the decolonization piece. How many times, who came up with this term? Was it a white person? Was it a person of color? I have no idea. I learned about this term at NCOR, the the Conference on National Residency, thank you. And I had Dr. Chris Salinas and Adele Lozano present on Latinx. And I remember learning about it, I was like, oh, this is the first time I've heard a person say LGBT. This is the first time they connected to LGBT. And then I had the privilege from 2017 to now, I went to see them at AHI. So AHI is the American Association for Hispanics in Higher Education. And there's Jesse over there, we were there. And we're having a good time with Dr. Chris Salinas. And he brought in a perspective that I don't think I've ever heard, right? About the complexities of Latinx and saying, you know what, take a moment to step back. Do we all have to identify the same way? Why do we have to identify the same way? But again, understanding where we come from. Like, I think one of the biggest things for me was identifying as a Chicana. I came in as an immigrant, right? Going back to my positionality real quick. So I was born and raised in Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico. So it's 2.5 hours southeast of like Tijuana. Do you know where Tijuana is at? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know where Mexicali is at? Yes. Yes, come through, yes, so I'm from Mexicali. Cataño. Yes, I'm Cataño. So I was really, really proud of growing up there. And then when I came to the United States at the age of 14, I went into the high school, and I remember they had Mecha. Like, I'll never forget Mecha. Like, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, folklorico come through. But then I realized, I was like, wait, I don't know what Chicano means. What does that mean? All I learned about Chicano was like Cesar Chavez at that point. I didn't even know who Dolores Huerta was to begin with. I didn't learn about Dolores Huerta until I was in college, right? Until I was taking a women's studies, Chicano studies professor. But again, I was told that I was this. But let's go back to the Mexican American definition. By definition, I'm not even Mexican American because I'm not born in Mexico. I'm not Chicana because I didn't grow up in the political movement. I don't know what that means for me, but yet I'm being told this is what you are. This is now as raza how you come through together as a group. When in Mexicali, I was never questioned whether or not I was Mexican, right? So again, look at the various experiences from like the differences. Look, Dr. Gina Garcia and I both are Latinas, right? We identify as Latinas. She has a very white perspective in education. I have a very different experience than she does as an immigrant, as a first-generation college student. And I will tell you too, now as a queer person, this is, if not one of the most difficult journeys that I've been through. I recently came out as queer, and I'm explaining this to you all because I think it's important to the work that we're doing and to really be transparent about why this work is important. Because as I've come out, I can tell you there's been a multitude of people coming to me now going, yes, right, yes, like, how do we get this work? How do we get this voice out? What does it mean for us as Latinas? Going back to the family piece, right? I'll tell you a little story about how difficult it is to navigate spaces in higher education being queer. So my sexual orientation is bisexual. So as bisexual, like, my family's really confused about like, wait, but you like men, you like women, what's the deal? Like, you're 31, you're not, getting it together with the babies, like, and again, because no, but it's true, right? Like, as women, we're expected, right, and all of these norms, right? But especially in Latino families, it's a very huge disconnect. I also have a brother who identifies as transgender. So in 2016, my brother tried to commit suicide. And out of that led to the passion of doing this work. And before that, I identified as queer, but I think I hadn't been able to piece everything together because, again, my fear of being disowned by my family, my fear of not being able to articulate these terms, what it meant, why I had these feelings, why they were so like difficult to navigate, why I felt like I couldn't connect with a lot of people that were surrounding me. But I think when my brother went through all of that, and as he's still navigating what that means for him, it was a big hit for my family, right? All of a sudden we had conversations with the tias and the tios, and some of them were very supportive, and some of them were not. Some of them wanted nothing to do with us. And it was, if not,
it's okay.
Yes. And I think that the importance of this work is that I know that the students need to hear this. I know that it comes from a very deep-rooted thing in like family and the connection that we have and the importance that it is for us to get an education. But it's important for every educator and every student to know that as we struggle within our identity, as we struggle to clean academic spaces based on our identities, putting them at the forefront. Understand that all of these things matter, and understand that they matter. And by saying it, validating those experiences are, if not the most important. Okay, so I want to take a little bit of time now to talk about bringing it back to practice. So, thank you for allowing me to share. So this is where we can start, right? So I've had a lot of people ask me, well, Yolanda, now that you're doing this work, how do we move forward? Beyond just sharing these narratives, right? These testimonials, these cuentos that we're sharing with the families, right? And making those connections with the community. How is it that we embrace this? Identity. I will tell you that Miracosta College, I thought, did a really great job at putting the pronouns at the forefront. Almost every faculty, every staff, every student provides their pronouns, right? And simply by doing that or providing that in your email signature, that says something to the students as we're emailing them, as we're emailing to each other. What that can do from an allied perspective. You don't need to know these terms, you just need to identify what the pronoun is, right? So it's she, her, hers, and you can see in those pamphlets, it'll also let you know about the other terms that are important for you to work and develop and understand. If you have any questions at any given point about these, I'm not the expert, but I'm trying to be. I'm in the process, hopefully. But if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to explain. Professional learning, please, 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 if you haven't taken the safe space training, who has taken the safe space training? Yay! And for those that haven't, please take the time. There's a lot of connections that you could do with that. It'll help you, it will guide you, it will help you understand what this means, the power of pronouns, the power of creating a safe space for students beyond just a sticker, right, that you're putting in your outside of your office. But it also encourages the students to approach you. I can tell you every time I put the borderless scholars up there, every time we do campus conexiones and the students see themselves in us, it empowers them. Okay, the provide mental health service information. This was key. This was key. Again, I've had access because of my education, because of my background. I've had a lot of access to therapy. I've had a lot of access to resources in general. My brother had a lot of resources. That's not the case with everybody. But for those that are really struggling with identity and being accepted and being validated in these spaces, part of that decolonization it's for us to know where these resources are at. How to connect them with, not just beyond knowing, hey, Agustino, what's up over there? No. Know the person. Know that person who can do it on your campus, who can help the student, right? And making sure that we know each other, right? That's important. And what we do in our roles in order to support that. Get involved with HSIs. Look, the work is difficult enough, right? We're dealing with, as you saw today, very few white folk decided to attend this session today, right? So, and not to say that it's all to be blamed on the white folk, but again, going back to the work that we're trying to do. As a grant, we're kind of taking like the bastard child, right? Like a lot of it in our institutions, and we're trying to infiltrate because we have money. But beyond that, we're trying to institutionalize HSIs, right? So that's important work. It takes every single person in this room to make that change, right? Everything from the connection that we have, but we can't always go out to you. I am expecting that out of this, that we connect with each other, we collaborate through our meetings with the regional groups and connections that we have through others. The students advocate for these programs, right? Because it is up to you too to say, we want this, we need these, we need the continuation of these programs, right? Messaging bilingual language in the website, and I will show you what that looks like. So we've done a lot of work with our web development program here. And this is our portal here at San Diego Mesa College. So, and it's in Spanish, people. So again, when we tie back with the community, right? Like if they want to know, pero, ¿qué significa ser HSI with the parentals, right? Like you're like, pero qué? It's okay, it's okay. They don't care about Latinx, they don't care about Chicanx, they don't care about anything. You're Mexican, you're Salvadoreña, you're whatever, that's who you are, right? But this is important to know, these are the services that we provide for the students, right? How do we engage the community, the Latinos, the Latino parents, right? And this is where we connect with them, right? Oh, there's Latin. Yeah. And everything you'll see there. I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. So the Latinx Alliance, who's part of the Latinx Alliance? Can everybody raise their hand who's part of the Latinx Alliance? Come through. So what we did back, and I was thinking definitely talk more about this too. Hi, come in. So we talked about how it was, I think Monica sent out an email, right? She talked about how there was 11% of faculty represented in Latinx are represented, only 11% of the faculty hired, even though we're a Hispanic serving institution. And out of that, we decided to create a little book about how to then connect with each other about the resources that we have on campus, right? Everything composed of, hopefully, students now. Students, faculty, and staff, and administrators, right? So as we connect with each other, like I'll know exactly, hey, Puente has this, we have Raza Grad here, we have borderless scholars, we have everything that we can think of, we talk about it. The challenges that we're facing, the difficulties of navigating this work, and then building a community. So now that we know who each other is on campus, right? Identifying who the Latinx folk are on campus, then we can really serve our constituency. This is what our Latinx website looks like. So here's a Latinx Alliance. If you want to join the Latinx Alliance, here for more information, you can definitely, our Campus Conexiones events are here also posted, what we do here on campus. And I want to take you to the important figures. So check this out. We also, with the help of Devin and other instructional assistants that have been key to this, and Claudia, I will give you a shout out here, we developed like important figures that we need to know about our communities, right? So LGBT, government, artists, social activists, formerly incarcerated, STEM, business, foster youth, education. Now that we're going to open also our center for the foster youth, right? So I'm taking you to the LGBT folk. So some of the, and we're still trying to develop more, but these are people like celebrities or connection to people who have done the work, right? And that these are what who our students need to know, right? And know more about information about. You can definitely navigate this. And if you have any questions about this, I can definitely give you more information. And then, so how do we center queerness, right? So one of the things that we did for STEM peer mentoring program, I'll give you an example about that. So we had an outreach ambassador come to one of our STEM peer mentoring orientations. And in that, we had seven peer mentors, right? And then we had our outreach ambassador come and train. The first thing that the outreach ambassador did was say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and my pronouns are he, him, his, right? Then somebody, one of the STEM peer mentors said, I identify as a human being, kind of making fun of the fact that pronouns, right, were being established in the group. We didn't say anything to the student. We didn't confront the student. We didn't say anything to the student. What we did was we waited until the session was over, make sure that everybody was still okay. So we had our white faculty contact who was the person running the peer mentoring program. That faculty contacted the student and said, hey, and not in a bad way, again, going back to connecting to pieces, right? Talk to the student in a very, again, non-confrontational way, make sure that the student understood the importance of pronouns. And not, again, putting the emphasis on, you're bad, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. No, it was really developing the language for the students, right? Because we don't know, it's not like we're brought to an understanding what these terms mean. And so after that, the student reached out to Letty and I. And then the student was like, I apologize. And I'm like, you have nothing to apologize. This is a safe space for you to come and talk to us. I can tell you, the dynamics shifted entirely. Like the student was very engaged. The student was like, I did not know. Like I had no idea that that was happening. I didn't know that pronouns were that important. And I'm like, yeah, for us other students, it's important for you to know that. And so now we've engaged another student. And this is how we teach so that they can teach others, right? And again, going back to that pipeline that Dr. Garcia was saying, because let's not forget, these are the future leaders of our generation, right? Our next generation. And then the last one is huge, too. I think rich communication between Chicano studies and HSIs. This is, if not, the most challenging part for me in my work. Because again, there's a lot of disconnect with what we understand. I think there's a lot of disconnect with the language, right? Going back, I can't go through another meeting going, but Hispanic doesn't pertain to me, right? I get it. I get that, again, this is the designation. From a political standpoint, that is something that has been told to us. This is how you're gonna identify. This is how you're gonna be called. This is not something, again, that we self-selected. This is during the Nixon administration going, hey, you all speak Spanish? This is, there you go. And this is from España, right? Like, and this is by the colonizer basically telling us what to identify as. And then the bridge with Chicano studies, again, going back to the importance of the Chicano studies, the Chicano movement, right? and making sure that we understand and respect the generations that come before us and the work that they've done and validate those experiences. But at the end, we need to bridge. We need to come together. We need to make sure that we connect with them. We need to make sure that we connect to the languages department, right? And make sure that all of this, because Latinx does not exist in the English language. Can you actually translate Latino? That's what we learned with Arahi with Dr. Salinas. You can't translate that. That does not exist in Spanish language. So again, going back, it's such heavy driven identity work. And this is what prevents us sometimes from doing the work, which is why I come to you today and make sure to queer the identity of HSIs in order to produce more inclusive environment, a more equitable environment for our students.
What does that X mean in Latin?
So it's interpreted in many ways. So in the research that I've done, it brings in an indigeneity, right, at the forefront. It brings gender inclusivity. But at AHI, we learned that it's not inclusive. So for example, somebody like my brother, right, who went from F to M, which is from female to male, right? That takes away from their chosen identity. So that means if my brother then, if he identifies as Latinx, that takes away from him now identifying as a male, right? So it's not inclusive for him because he's identifying as male. And he wants to identify, he wants to be validated to be identified as male. So how does that complicate things, right? How does that identify? Chicano, Chicanx. Because let's be real, the Chicano movement, what did it have? It had its complications, not including women, not including LGBTQ folk. What did that do for the movement? When we say raza, the importance of raza, and it's difficult work, and I'm not saying one, again, from a positionality standpoint, I'm not saying that any given one is right or wrong. It just means that we have to come together as people and say, you know what, this is how I identify, and that's the decolonization piece. Whatever your students, you, or anybody else decides to self-identify, that's the power. And that's how we bring collective identity. And that's really what I wanted to do and present today. So that's all I have for today. And you have two different